The classic financial advisor relationship with clients is you have one or two meetings a year or four phone calls, a phone call every quarter, and you focus on investment performance and what this fund has done, what the market has done, and what's the rationale. And that's all important information.
All right, welcome to the F Words Podcast. My name is Nic Skovgaard, and I have with me John Forbes from the Forbes Financial Group with me today. And we're going to be talking about one of your favorite things, one of your favorite F words, food. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Nick, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
I still remember a really cool story that you told me when we first started talking about, being a financial advisor and getting started in sort of this world. And I think that your exact line is, if you would have told me that I would be asking some of my best clients to bring food for a potluck, I would have fallen over. I just would have never believed you. Tell me about that. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's funny. It's my wife's idea. And we were trying to come up with things we could do with our clients to engage and be authentic. And if I remember right, we had a client event at Giant City Lodge. We were eating lunch there, and Karyn said something about the idea of you should do potlucks, and that, to put it, it's beautiful having a perspective of someone who's not in the business all the time, because anyone in the business at the time would have scoffed that off completely, because that is not how you do it. You entertain, you take them out, you wine and dine, you rubber chicken dinner, all that kind of stuff. And she said that, and I was like, I don't know. And she said, why don't you ask them? And we had about 10, 15 clients sitting there at lunch, and I threw out the idea sheepishly, because I really thought I was going to get laughed at. The idea of doing a potluck, where maybe I'd fix a turkey, roast a turkey, and then clients would bring sides and stuff. And to a person, every one of them loved the idea. They couldn't wait. And the more I thought about it afterwards, some of my clients just love to cook. I've got a lot of grandmas and grandpas that love to grill or cook or prepare, and so yeah, we started the potlucks, and that's become one of our favorite things. And what we like to try to do with those is when we have a potluck, somebody brings a dish, and we ask them to bring the recipe also. And there are some people who won't. If it's a family secret, we don't get that information, but most people, for the most part, will. And when we do it right, we gather those recipes, and then we'll send out a day or two later, thanks for coming, here's a recipe for all the things we had last night. And the clients love that. And what's so fun is my mom has a salad that she makes, a spinach salad. And we've had it it's a staple. And for family gatherings, the kids to this day, they want that salad from grandma. And she still makes it well. It turns out one of my clients took that recipe and incorporated it into their Christmas dinner, and the family went nuts, and that's now a staple for their Christmas dinners as well. So those are the kinds of stories and the fun things that we get to do with clients that again, 5-10 years ago, I never would have guessed that would be something that we would enjoy as much as we do.
And so I love that so much. And I guess my question that comes out of this is, as we were kind of developing the F Words podcast, the words that make up the F words, was food always one of them for you? Or is the potluck thing, is that where it came from? Or was it always something for you?
No, the F words kind of came about as, again, just trying to be authentic. And what if I could share things with people, what would it be? And what are the things that are nearest and dearest, to me, on my heart? And it's family, it's faith, it's food, it's fun, and we like to encourage giving. So philanthropy, it's not an F word, but I've made it an F word.
It counts.
Yeah, food, faith, fun, and finances, obviously, it comes into play as well too. So as we were just kind of doodling out those ideas, the F words with John Forbes, I actually had a little suggestion I'd thrown out to some friends. What would you call it? And it was actually it was a youth pastor at our church that came up with F words with John Forbes, and so yeah, that's kind of it's again it's just I love it when we can do things that are just kind of authentic.
I think that one of the things that kind of comes just, full circle in conversations like this is that it is about sharing, like sitting down and having lunch with someone, sitting down at the dinner table with them. It just changes the relationship in a way, right? I think breaking bread, right? It's such a fundamental part of like what it is like to be part of the Forbes family and be connected to you guys. Like I can't think of the last time that I came to anything that you guys did that there wasn't food, right? And it wasn't like you said, it's not the rubber chicken, it's not the escargot or something fancy, to showboat it. It's like it's something that is comfort food. It's something delicious. And you guys have to be pretty intentional about that, right? Like that's something that you do on purpose.
Yeah, we do. And when you just think of most, at least when I look back and reflect, some of our favorite family gatherings involved, if it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, that there was a family meal, and it wasn't formal. And sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's just let's get together and laugh and share and talk and have some great food and have some wine and just celebrate being together. And so that's become it's a big part of what our family is, and just again in that vein of keeping things authentic, we thought let's see if our people like that too, and everybody does. It's kind of universal. If you can sit down and enjoy a great meal and laugh, and sometimes it's share tough news. It's just the things you do with friends and with family. We found that it's just so much easier to be fully present for somebody when you're sharing a meal.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that so many of us have these really like fond memories too of if you've got a grandma or something, like my father-in-law makes like the best chocolate chip cookies, and like that's what my kids remember about him, and we've had a lot of conversations, and I know that you have a lot of conversations with your clients about the legacies they leave behind, and some of that is financial, but a lot of it is everything else, right? It's the memories of making those cookies with grandpa that my kids are really gonna remember.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of this, Nick. Is I can be my full authentic self, and my team. I think that's part of, I think you kind of attract who you are, and I look at the team we have in place right now, and we are able to genuinely enjoy the presence of having some of our people over for a gathering.
Yeah. That's just such a cool feeling to build community around that, and to let your clients come in and share their favorite recipe. Do you have some like all time standouts of something that somebody's brought in that has just knocked your socks off?
Uh, yes, and probably for the wrong reason. I had a client. He's passed away. His name was Harry, and he was coming to the potluck, and his wife was going to join him later, and he had a big pot of baked beans they had made that he was bringing, and he had them in the floorboard in the back seat of his car, and he hit a corner a little hard, and baked beans were all over the back of his car, and we didn't get to try a bite of it, but the look on his wife's face when she found out what he had done was priceless. And so when I think of potluck memories and food memories, it's funny that one just came up, and I thought of it. So we got him a gift certificate to go get his car washed and detailed. but yeah, it was that was a fun moment. And yeah, we have, and what it is also, not only from the potlucks, but as I think through that question, because that's really making me reflect a little bit, with that same couple, get to laugh and talk at that meal, and we learned that their family standard meal at Christmas was to do a standing rib roast on the grill, and I had never had one before, never done one before, but that next Christmas we did a standing rib roast for our family Christmas gathering, and I think of Harry every time, and I bet we've done that now for 10 or 15 years. That's when the kids come home, they know Dad's going to fix a standing rib roast.
And just the impact, and to think that, like, outside of the business relationship, before you two had connected, it wasn't like you were really close friends, and this is
No.
somebody who has come in and had a 15-year impact on your family, and to think that, like, when you sit down and talk to anyone about finances, about planning for retirement, about the potluck, right? What they're bringing to the potluck,
Hmm.
that's the thing that kind of just hits home so much, is that it's sometimes the little stuff that makes the biggest difference. And I think that in all the conversations that we've had so far, that has been a reoccurring theme
Yeah.
of to be intentional about what what you prioritize and what matters.
Hmm.
To kind of just tie this back into some of the other things that you do, what when somebody's laying out that plan, finances are one big component of it.
Hmm.
What else goes into that recipe? What else do you help them sort of think through as they figure out what the next 10, 15, 20 years of their life is going to look like?
You know, it when people come in for an initial meeting, what I really want to learn is just tell me about what makes you tick, what gets you excited, what gets you scared, and in many instances, finances come into play, but in more indirectly, it might be that I had a conversation this week with a client who is really concerned about. They've got two sons. One son isn't probably one of the better money managers, and if they inherited money, if something happened to mom and dad, they're really worried about what would come of that, what would happen to that money, what would happen to that, more importantly, what would happen to that son. And so having a conversation and directing them toward, taking the right legal steps and things that they hadn't considered before. Again, that's not managing investments. That's not selecting, you fund X or fund Y for them, or what model they need to use. It's what worries you, and how can I help? How can I help you get some kind of peace of mind with whatever is bothering you? So it's not always directly financial, but at the end of the day, I just, if I can help somebody out or help them think of something in a new way, that's often the biggest win, especially on those initial visits.
Yeah, and as you gather people around, and I think that you told me once, and this was just a fun analogy, is that, like, most of your clients are people who you would sit down and have a meal with, right? And have that conversation with. And I think that most of your clients feel the same way about you, in the sense that establishes that sort of level of trust where they can talk to you openly. There's not judgment, there's not concern, and they can just have those conversations, like you said, really authentically. John, you've always been somebody who I feel like, you know, isn't going to have some conversation of, there's high pressure to do something, or, leverage some direction. It's like, this is a really fluid discussion. How can I help you do what matters for the future that you're trying to aim for? And the first step in that is identifying what that is.
Yeah. I want uh, the classic financial advisor relationship with clients is you have one or two meetings a year, or four phone calls, a phone call every quarter, and you focus on investment performance and what this fund has done, what the market has done, and what's the rationale. And that's all important information. Uh, I find I can serve, and we here can serve our clients better if we kind of get to know them at a more personal level, and understand. Anybody can fake it till you make it one or two times a year, and have that plastic veneer, and everything's fine, and I don't worry about anything. But when you meet with them 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and mostly in social engagement, we enjoy spending time with our people. But at the end of the day, as I get to see their heart and they see ours, it helps us to know when we're talking about something tough, and they don't. We can tell if they're being authentic about it or not. And when you can get a little bit deeper into some of the things, the fears and the joys, um, it just helps us to do our job and serve them better.
When you have that opportunity to sort of get past that really surface level conversation, this is somebody who shows up and participates in the potluck, and you see them several times a year. You also have a deeper knowledge of when things change, when they get closer to retirement or when they're struggling with something that has nothing to do with their finances.
Hmm.
You have shared so much wisdom with just me throughout our conversations about you know really figuring out where you want to go and what's important, and everything from like thinking about passing down that one recipe to not just having the financial things that you're leaving behind to your kids, but also being able to like have a great relationship with them and take the time to invest in that. And I know that that's something that's been really important to you as your kids have gotten older too. How does that change for everyone as they go through the stages of life of like what's important?
You know, and if we, I've just ordered a book. I listened to a podcast. I'm new to this podcast thing. I'm hooked on a few of them. But an author was talking about this book he's written about the 5 types of wealth, and caught my attention right away when I heard this. And he said, of course, financial is one. Social engagement is another one. Health, physical and mental health. The family relationships. Basically, is your world getting smaller or bigger? And when you're younger, you don't really think about those things. But as clients get older and they retire, and you start, it's very easy to kind of fall into habits that make your world smaller and smaller. And what we try to do is help broaden people's worlds out a little bit as they get a little bit older, and engage with other people, and make new friendships, and think bigger than what they're maybe comfortable with or can get comfortable with. So I think when everybody's younger, wealth is only defined as financial. But I think as we take a few laps around the track, get a few more rings on the tree, we realize finances are good and important. But nobody lays on their deathbed saying, "Can I see that 401k statement one more time?" That's not it. And the sooner we can understand that finances are there to serve us, we don't serve finances. And when the finances can serve us and allow us to spend more time with family, to allow us to plan family vacations together, and help pick up the tab when the kids, they're broke, because you were there at that age too, in that season of life, when you can focus on uh, learning a little bit more about how the rest of the world works, and when we're children, it's very easy to ask lots of questions. If anybody's had kids, know they are really good at asking questions. It seems like as we get older, there's a tendency to lose that gift to be able to ask questions. So if we can encourage people to kind of stretch their minds, stretch things out a little bit, and try to get some of that curiosity back about things, that's another benefit of developing that relationship with some of our favorite people over time.
Yeah, and so you have these events, and you talk about the things that like really matter and like bringing people together in community. That deepens the relationship with you and your team, but it also helps them build some really cool connections. You've got to have some great stories of like two strangers that have come to a potluck or an event that are now like fast friends. That happens too, right?
It happens all the time. We had a birthday party at one of the local wineries. A couple. This is pre-COVID. This goes back a little bit. Had a birthday party for somebody, and we all got together, and there were about 12 of us at this party, sitting outside at a winery. And I looked around, and I started to ask the person whose birthday it was. I said, "How many of these people did you know 10 years ago?" He's like, "John, none of them. These are all people I met. I met through working with you. These are all new friends." So someone in their late 60s has made 4 or 5 different couples that were there were friends that they just met within the last 10 years of their life at that time, and so yeah, it really is special to see that, or I'll see a post on Facebook where two couples that met at one of our client events are out to dinner at a local restaurant, and they wanted to send me a picture, through Facebook, and so it's fun seeing people's worlds get a little bit bigger.
So John, actually, right before today, I was going through a couple notes that I have, and I have some notes from a conversation you and I had way back in 2019, and one of the things that just struck me because it is so powerful is what if I told you that as a young financial advisor, your first day on the job, that you'd be having the potluck, right? You'd be like, you're crazy. The thing that automatically occurs to me too is like, what if I told you that there were a bunch of people who would say, like, where did you meet your group of friends? They're like, oh, I met them through my financial advice. Like, that's never happened anywhere else.
Well, see, Nick, what makes that, and we you have shared that with me before, and I guess what I struggle with is, and my sincere reaction is, isn't that normal? I mean, isn't that how it, what are we doing that different? Why wouldn't people want to be authentic and spending a lot of time with people that they truly enjoy spending time with? Um, so yeah, 30 years ago, getting in this business, I never would have dreamed, because this is not how this is not how it's trained to be done. But my gosh, after being around a little bit and seeing, and maybe it's me getting gray or follically challenged or whatever's going on, realizing that yeah, let's spend some time with people we really enjoy, because I know even just in the last few years I've spoken at my firm's national conference several times about this topic, actually. And in the industry, if someone generally, one of the reasons they won't do a lot of events is because, well, the same people come every time, and it's the people that want the free dinner. Well, you're not inviting the right people, and for me, if the same people come to 10 or 12 events I have this year, I couldn't be happier, because those are the people that I want to spend time with. So it's just kind of taking, we literally, as I look back on it now, we took a lot of things that the industry said, this is how you do it, and we literally turned it upside down and said, let's do it completely different.
And I think that's why so many people find that opportunity. The thing that occurs to me as you sort of talk through that is that, like, you attract the right people because you're trying to build a genuine relationship, and once you have that genuine relationship, then everyone you're bringing into that circle is somebody who's worthy of being in it, for lack of a better word, right? The reason why this doesn't work in other financial advisor offices is because they've got a whole bunch of people that they don't have relationships with, and they can't bring them in with a shared set of common values and a shared set of community, and bring your potluck and share your family recipe, because that's not the relationship they have. And because you have that unique relationship, not just with one person, but with dozens of people, when you bring them to the table, the common factor is they're the type of people who want to have that relationship with you too. And so it's really easy for them to find friends in that room. And that's powerful, John. I mean, that's something that is very rare.
Well, and I just think, the whole concept behind how we got here. Again, my wife was she was and continues to be so good at helping me shift the lens just a little bit, and ask a different question, and then bringing on team members that are totally sold out to the idea of, this is how we're going to do it, and they enjoy it too. So it generally makes work kind of fun to be at. But to your point, and something you were mentioning, the very first criteria, and I think you might have even said this earlier, but one of the very first criteria that I use, and when I sit down with a new prospective client, is this somebody I could sit down and have coffee with, and leave with wind in my sails, and not feel exhausted afterwards. And funny enough, you can usually pick up on that pretty quick in a conversation. What's important to somebody, what do they want to spend time talking about. When you talk about concerns and fears and joys, when you hear what those are, there are some people, we're not their cup of tea, and that's okay. I get it, but fortunately, being being in this for a little while, we get to be pretty selective about who we partner with, just so I can respect, the time that I need to serve the existing clients well. Um, I want to make sure when I sit down and talk to somebody, could I have a cup of coffee with you, and would I feel better afterwards than I did before? And that's criteria number one.
I think that just one of the things that I want to just tie back in, and this kind of ties to all of this, is that a lot of times when we're early in our careers, we have this kind of a sense of an accumulation mindset, right? We want to just keep collecting. We want a bigger house and more cars and whatever it is. There's all this stuff, and then you get to a point where you have this shift where you want the things that you have to matter. And that's not just the physical things. That's the relationships that you have. That's the dish that you bring. You could run by Walmart and pick up a dozen, cheaply made cupcakes. That's not it, right? That's not the same thing. How do you see that shift happen for people that you've worked with and just people that you know? Where is that shift for most people?
I think I think it just takes seasoning. I think the older we get, and the more perspective and context we can put on things, and you could go in and put in an extra 10 or 20 hours, this week, and maybe that'll bump the income up 10 or 15%, or something. You start to realize, okay, that 10 or 20 hours, I've invested my time into making money. Could I have invested my time into something different and gotten a better return? And that's where I think it takes a little bit of seasoning to realize, hey, I don't need to be quite as focused on what I thought was important, or what was important for me for a good reason, maybe a decade or 2 decades earlier, isn't necessarily what's the most important thing now.
And I see a lot of this too, because I think it's really easy to see looking back. It's the hindsight is 2020, right? That every time you're talking to somebody and it's some high school kid, and it's like they think the world's gonna end because their boyfriend broke up with them or something like that, and it's just like this won't matter. Like, this is not the most important thing. And then it's so easy to get to that next level of your life, and then you're all worried about it still, and you fast forward another 10 years or another 20 years, and you're like, yeah, those late nights and early mornings that you burned the midnight oil at the office, that's not the thing you're going to look back and remember. And I just think that is such a powerful sentiment. One of my favorite things about getting to talk to you is that you have shared so much with the clients and the community that you've built, but you've also gotten so much from them. Like, you have just a wealth of wisdom that comes from not having one or two mentors, but having dozens of them. All of these people who have lived very interesting and cool lives, and they've shared their stories, and they've shared their hopes and their dreams and their fears, and that's got to be a huge perk of the job that you do, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of my clientele are over the age of 60, so they're people that have a few more rings on their tree than I do, or and some life experience, and so, yeah, getting being able to share with them, hey, this has got me frustrated. I'm trying to deal with this, and my grandkids are this far away, and how do you what do you do? How do you make the best of those situations? And I love having. It's almost like a board of directors for mentorship, of people that have successfully navigated through a lot of this, and if you ask them, they're not afraid to share with you, the decisions they made, the good ones and the bad ones.
Is there anything that you have just fundamentally implemented in your life because of some of the advice that you've got or the conversations that you've had over your career? Anything that just absolutely stands out as something that, like, if you weren't doing this job, you probably would have never picked up on?
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I think of little nuanced things that that I do as a dad and as a pops. Um, and a lot of it came from my parents and from my wife and from my in-laws. But that there's a couple things that kind of stand out that a couple of clients have shared. And honestly, I'm not real comfortable sharing what they shared, but
Of course.
I'm very comfortable saying that because we had developed a very strong relationship over 20 plus years, that they knew the authentic me, and they knew and still know what are the things that are most important to me. And sometimes having somebody there that can remind you of that when you can kind of wander down a rabbit hole has been just a fantastic blessing.
Well, I have to just guess here, but I've seen the way that you have been just over the moon excited to be a grandfather, to be a pops. Is that what you use?
Pops, yeah, pops and Gigi.
Pops. And I think that some of that excitement and enthusiasm and that like presence of mind has got to come from those conversations, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You and I think it's kind of I want to say it's universal. I think it's probably close to universal. Just when I had somebody tell me this one time, I thought it was brilliant. You can give me a second. I got to get the quote exactly right. Okay, the quote they shared was you can raise your kids and spoil your grandkids, or you can spoil your kids and raise your grandkids. It's going to be one or the other, and it really it was really something that was a little bit of an encouragement to me and to Karyn when the kids were younger, and knowing what the payoff would be. So yeah, now as Pops and Gigi, it's great to be the one that doesn't have to say no. we can go in and sugar them up and wind them up and hand them back and let them go through Gigi Pop detox for a little while. But yeah, it's that next generation having grandkids is definitely something that recalibrates things for you in a hurry.
So, I hope this question isn't too personal, and if it is, please let me know. But, as you kind of think about your own legacy and your grandkids and what you want to pass to them, right? Money aside, of course, right? Not even that conversation. Like, what's something that you really hope that your grandchildren get from the relationship with you? Do you have a recipe that you hope to pass down? Do you have a tradition that you hope to pass down? Is there something that just sticks out?
Mm. I think as far as a legacy, I just want them to never even have to wonder if they were loved, and never even question whether they're important at all. That's the overarching, if we accomplish that, that's great. Now, how do we go about that? By actively staying in touch, and my wife is so good at this. At she's mastered the long distance grandchild relationship, and I'm just along for the ride. In a lot of instances, she is so good at this. But yeah, it is just so important. We just want to make sure. That they know how precious they
Oh, you're making me tear up, John. Like that, I think that there is nothing more important, right? If you can do that one thing right, you can do a lot of other things wrong, and still have passed on one heck of a legacy.
are.
I want to share one with you really quickly, and you might already know this because I think I've told you it before, but you've kind of been a mentor to me in a couple different ways, and given me some great advice over the years. And one thing that I have taken from you is, and you're gonna have to tell me exactly what it is, but it's the quote that is on your desk that you have sitting on your desk as a reminder to yourself. It's under the glass.
How can I be a blessing to someone today?
How can I be a blessing to someone today?
Yeah.
And that, not just the quote, right? The quote is powerful in and of itself, but the fact that you have these amazing relationships that you've cultivated, and that you put that reminder in front of you every single day so that you see it. I've since 2019, since the first time I saw that, I have gone out of my way to do that, not only for me, whether it's a motivational quote or something like that, but I've also done it for my kids. I mean, I developed a mantra with my kids of just some things that I want them to know and believe and care about. And a big part of that came from that conscious thought of walking out of your office going, you have such a powerful way of storytelling, and the fact that you still go out of your way to remind yourself that means that everybody needs to. Everybody needs to be conscious about what they're feeding.
Nick, to kind of tie into that even deeper, there are times when I can do that really well, and when life gets a little chaotic and my desk gets messy, that gets covered. And when I don't see it, the heart gets a little bit more calloused, and you're not looking. And then I'll clear off my desk, and it's when I clean my desk, it's one of the first things I recognize when I try to tidy things up a little bit. I look down and I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, I've not had that mindset recently. So it's something that just having it there, everybody needs that reminder, and we can get sideways in a hurry when life gets cluttered, and we lose that focus.
Oh, the analogy is absolutely beautiful. All the stuff gets piled up on your desk. All of the things get busy. There's, it's covered in sticky notes, and you can't see what's really important anymore. I don't think that we could pick a better analogy to end today with. That is absolutely beautiful. John, I think that one, I want to have to give you huge kudos. I want to come back and do this anyways. Is you managed to work seasoning into this podcast just so effortlessly. As we're talking about food, we did not plan that at all, and that is not scripted. And I was just going the whole time like genius.
Yeah, that was good.
John, words of wisdom. Let's close today with one thought about something to do with food, with breaking bread, about choosing the people that you spend time with. What's the call to action for today? If we were talking about the ingredients to sort of make life fulfilling, what piece of advice would you send them out? What's something they can do in the next 7 days to take steps to be better in that area?
Well, I think the first thing that a person could do is think of that person that the connection has faded a little bit, and it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be a parent. But if there's somebody where the connection has faded a little bit, that name will pop up, and the challenge would be reach out to that person and say, can we get together for a cup of coffee? And it might be a virtual cup of coffee. It could be a FaceTime or a Zoom at breakfast or after the kids are off to school or whatever it might be, and intentionally seek to re-engage with somebody that you know it's not where it needs to be, and taking the first step can be the toughest. But that would be my first bit of advice. And the second bit of advice would be, don't save the good wine. We have this habit, I'm becoming a little bit of a wine guy, and there's nights where I'll come home and I've got my wines sorted in my cabinet from cheap at the bottom to the expensive stuff at the top. And my gut is always to grab from the bottom first. And sometimes if it's been a good day or something's gone particularly well, I'm not going to save the good. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have that right now. So those would be my two bits of encouragement. Would be be intentional, reach out and grab a cup of coffee with somebody, in person or virtual, and for however it applies to your life, don't save the good wine.
And John, I got to just throw one back on there because you already said it. But as we're summarizing here, don't forget to clear the desk off of all the things that are hiding what's really important, because that is such a beautiful analogy. John, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it, and I think that all of the people who interact with you in the community that you've built would say the same thing. That you have created something truly special, and that's really magical. Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, Nick, enjoyed the visit.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance reference is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal.